The most powerful moment in House of the Dragon Episode 2. With the second episode of the show recently being released, it jumped us forward to around 6 months after the events that unfolded in the first episode of the series. We saw many things happen that led to the eventual conflict that looks as though is going to arise in Episode 3, along with the dismantlement of the house that currently sits on the Iron Throne. So with this, I thought I'd take a look and state what I thought the most powerful moment in the second episode of the show was. So let's get into it. Here is the most powerful moment in House of the Dragon Episode 2. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. With this episode being a poignant one, with it showing the cracks within the family that currently sits on the Iron Throne in multiple ways. In the sense that we had King Viserys, who has a disease that seems as though it's getting worse, Prince Daemon banished from King's Landing, the Queen dying from childbirth, and also Rhaenyra running away following the news at the end of the episode. It showed us that there isn't much left for King Viserys and he's looking weaker. But one thing outside of the matter of family was the external threat of the Crabfeeder that needed to be dealt with, and this was a moment that came close to taking the top spot. A moment that came close to being the most powerful in the episode was when we were first introduced to the Crabfeeder in Episode 2. We were shown him in a way that was teased throughout the entirety of the episode before getting a shot of his full face in the final 4 seconds. All we did was hear of the Crabfeeder and the torturous nature of punishment that he bestowed on people that got in his way. We had shots of half of his face where he was wearing the haunting yet slightly broken mask. We saw the grayscale that he was riddled with and was on him. We saw him pulling out the tools that he used to nail individuals to pieces of wood for when the tide comes in, and also the devastation that he causes when he leaves people to be consumed alive by the creatures of the sea, which tend to be the crabs. The show drip-fed us shots of the individual, which all resulted in the showing of him at the end, and it was the perfect way to do it. It was almost like other people were talking of somebody, like a myth or a tale, and that's how it was shown to us. We didn't learn all about him in one go. We barely know anything about him now, but it started with him and ended with him. So when he did eventually appear, it was a moment that was worth waiting for and led us to wanting to learn more and see what he's truly capable of in Episode 3 of the show. However, the moment that I believe is the most powerful moment in the entirety of Episode 2 occurred right towards the end of the episode, and this was when we saw King Viserys making the decision to marry Alicent, instead of joining the two long-lasting Valyrian houses by marrying Laena, Lord Valyrian and the Queen Who Never Was daughter. Throughout the entirety of the episode, we'd heard about how the people of Westeros and other houses throughout the Seven Kingdoms felt as though the line to the throne was weak, and that there were discussions occurring about the state of how it was with King Viserys leading with no queen by his side. Despite being in mourning and truly seeing that he did really love his wife who passed away, he started considering the idea of having a new person by his side. We saw that the first option was Corlys's daughter Laena. However, she was considerably younger compared to the king's age, which is what was one of the main attributes as to why he didn't take up Lord Valyrian's offer, and they visually made this apparent as the scene unfolded, as we saw that the king was a lot larger than her, showing the uncomfortable nature of it. Throughout the first 2 episodes of the show, we'd seen Otto Highwater's plan working, in getting Alicent on the side of the king, and being the person that he went to for comfort and aid following the death of his wife. This was with the intention and hopes of getting the king to want to marry Alicent, and there being a direct line to the throne for the family, and in the climax of the episode we saw that very thing happen. The king decided that he wanted to marry Alicent, which caused disruption in the council and also in his family. The small part that he has left, that is. We saw Lord Valyrian state his disagreement to the king, before walking out and now siding with Viserys' brother Daemon, who was banished. And we also saw Rhaenyra walk out looking like she was extremely upset with the decision that her father made to marry her best friend without her being aware of any of it. This also tied into the scene that occurred in the first third of the episode, where we had Rhaenyra and Alicent praying. This was where Rhaenyra stated how the council were trying to get her father remarried and replace her as heir. We knew that Alicent was aware of what was happening due to the king asking her if she discussed these conversations with his daughter, to which she replied no. So this was definitely something that had been going on for some time in the making of the decision, but Alicent was just not being truthful about knowing the extent of the situation with her dear friend. It was a true start of the episode connecting to the end, and showed the betrayal that was present. The scene started perfectly, with the king looking over his kingdom, knowing what needed to be done in order to keep things peaceful and to avoid war, when in actuality, the thing that he's done by choosing to marry Alicent to avoid war with others could be the very thing that brings conflict to his doorstep from people that are closer to home. It was a moment that I believe is the very thing that is now going to cause the downward spiral of the Targaryen line that we know, and bring a rise and spark the ignition to the civil war that's brewing. It was a moment that was momentous in impact, and despite being all conversation, I believe it will cause a whole lot of damage in the long run. So, there you have it, the most powerful moment in House of the Dragon Episode 2. If you want to see more videos on House of the Dragon, such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you want to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review next, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What was your most powerful moment? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.